I am going to confess something that is difficult for anyone to say, especially if you're a man, especially if you're a British middle-aged man. It might be very difficult to even contemplate this and then to say it out loud, but I am average. I'm good at a few things, good at my job, good at guitar, but I'm not amazing at anything, which is difficult for men to contemplate, because I think as you get older, there's things that start to come into your mind, like legacy, what you'll leave behind when you realize that life is not eternal. However, despite being average, I've completed quite a few things off my bucket list. This is not to humble brag. This is a realization I'm average, but I've been ticking some things off, and it's because of one key thing that I have changed in my life. And I want to appeal to you because you have the ability to do this as well, and could change your life for the better, and maybe bring an enhancement of happiness, increased joy in your life. Let me just get under this tree. So let me tell you a story to give you a bit of background, because there's a reason why I was forced to make this key change in my life. So in 2006, I was working in London and I met a girl, and she was from Hungary. And very quickly, I decided and realized, I had been thinking about it for a while actually, that I had begun to have had enough of London. I'd been there 12 or 13 years. So very quickly I went out to Budapest, and that is the correct pronunciation. I didn't know anything about Hungary or Budapest or where I was going. The only thing I believe I'd heard about Hungary was because I'm from a very big family and my elder brothers are a generation older than me. And my eldest brother was always speaking about Puskás, the Hungarian famous footballer who went to Real Madrid and was an amazing guy. So I moved out to Hungary in 2006. I've lived in many different European countries since then. But at that 2006, there was a cut-off point, because this was before NordVPN and the ability to hack into British television back home in Blighty. So immediately I was cut off from Match of the Day. Ooh. For a British bloke, growing up a British boy, playing football out in the streets, football was everything. I knew everything about my team, about every other team, constantly talking about football, constantly playing football. I actually played football to quite a high level when I was a kid. I played to county level. I even went and played in a competition on the Old Trafford pitch once. So football really was everything. But as soon as Match of the Day got cut off, the only other option was to watch football on Hungarian television with commentary that I did not understand, commentary that wasn't as excited as well. I've lived in many European countries and it's the same everywhere actually, that the commentary is a bit muted, and in comparison to John Motson, let's say, good old Motty, RIP. So gradually, I stopped watching footballs, watching less and less. The Premier League wasn't on so much even in Hungary when I got there. And kind of very quickly, I stopped watching football. I was kind of forced to. I would check in for the Euros. I would check in for the World Cup. But in those recent competitions, even when England were in the finals and semi-finals, I didn't watch them. You might be saying it wasn't worth it with Southgate at the helm. So, but the point being that how much time had I saved by not watching football? How many games are there in a Premiership season? Is it 38? So let's say you watch all of your team's games, 38 times 2 hours per game. It's probably a bit more than that if you go out to a pub and watch them with your mates. So 76 hours, let's say 100 hours a year you are devoting to your team if you watch all of the games. There are an amazing amount of things that you can do with 100 hours. So again, this is not to boast, but since I stopped watching television, I have had the since I stopped watching football, I also stopped watching television. I didn't have a television when I came to Hungary or the next 2 countries that I lived in. So I stopped watching football, which was the main thing I used to do, and also television. But I had so much time on my hands. In that time, I put it to good use, not by spending 24 hours a day on something, but just an hour a day. And I've learned 2 languages. I have taught myself classical piano from scratch, from zero to quite a good standard. I started running, and I ran in some big city half marathons. I learned to skip, proper skipping, double unders, crossovers, not like Rocky. I love you, Sly, but Rocky is the worst skipper on the planet. I love all Sly's films, even the terrible ones like Cobra and Over the Top. What a great movie. The best, worst movie. But Rocky can't skip, I'm telling you. So, not boasting, but I had the time to put into those things. So what's on your bucket list? Are there some things that you would like to achieve in life? Maybe you always wanted to go to Japan and you wanted to learn a bit of the language first. Maybe you wanted to take up carpentry and start building wardrobes, or something like you have an interest in slugs, snails, or butterflies, or you want to be a beekeeper. Is there something on your bucket list that you just never got round to? Another thing that I've done, this is a bit nerdy, but I got back into reading, and I have read so many of those classic books that I never got round to. But I'm no spring chicken. I don't have eternal life left. So time is running out. So I wanted to tick some things off the bucket list. And one of those was all of those books, but that just takes time. That's all it takes, is time. But it gives you a different outlook on life than constantly talking about football. Combine that with some things that are heavily associated with football, such as alcohol, And if you're watching at home, sitting down, you know that sitting is bad for you, don't you? You must have seen articles, people talking about sitting is the new cancer. So if you're at home, Sky Sports, sitting down for however many Premiership matches throughout the season, or Championship, or whatever your team, whatever league your team is in, and you're having a tinny, cheeky tinny, or is it a 4-pack of Heineken, Stella, Foster's, whatever it is, you know that alcohol is bad for every cell in your body too, right? Especially if you're not in your 20s anymore. So I would appeal to you that if you have a desire for a bucket list tick off of a very special item in your heart, then have a go at reducing your football intake. Football is actually a drug that is a huge industry fed to us in that machine-like way. It is very difficult to avoid, and I was forced, in a way, to avoid it. But can we think about for a moment what your team is? So if you ask most guys in the UK which football team they support or why they support that team, they will usually say born and bred. Am I right? However, there are loads of people who support a team that's got nothing to do with where they grew up. Prince William, Aston Villa, what's that about? I think it's just because he went to the first football match he was ever taken to was at the Villa, I think. My best friend in London, he supports West Ham. He was born on the other side of the country. And I know a guy in Budapest who's a massive Liverpool fan. He's never been to Anfield. So the clubs are, what's the devotion for them these days? It's not like Glasgow Celtic in 1967 when they won the European Cup, as it was back then, not the Champions League. 14 of the 15 players in the squad were born within 10 miles of the stadium. And the 15th player, I think, was born 30 miles from the stadium. Okay, now that I can get with, and that is a community, and that will never, ever, ever, ever happen again. The players now, especially in the Premiership, they don't care about your club. I'm really sorry to say this. If you're a devoted fan, you must know this in your subconsciousness. They are playing for the money. They are millionaires in the Premiership, and they really don't care about your shirt or your badge. And isn't that really all that you're supporting? A shirt, a badge, and they change the shirt and the away kit every year, don't they, to maximize the club's profits. But what are you supporting? A shirt? So another little drip in my falling out of love with football was the fact that when I would come back to London, I had two friends who, one was a Chelsea season ticket holder and one was an Arsenal season ticket holder. And just because they both had 2 tickets each, I'm sorry. And just because I wanted to see them and stuff, and I say, hey, I'm back in town for a week or a weekend, can we meet up? And they say, well, how about coming to the football? So I'd go and sit in the stands. Is it called the stands now when you're sitting? Well, anyway, sitting there at Chelsea or Arsenal and watching, usually against my team that I grew up with. Can you guess which team that I supported for my whole childhood? Maybe put it down in the comments if you can smoke me out. So sitting there watching my team against Chelsea or Arsenal, I was completely bored, because I remember football, British football, as being very, very energetic, passionate, route one, get the winger, snap it in, and a big, tall guy, oof, head it in. That's proper British football. But going to see these Premiership matches was so unbelievably boring, like watching five-a-side down the park, to be honest. Just played in such a narrow space in the middle of the field. Wow, just nothing going on, and the crowds also. Maybe that's indicative of Chelsea and Arsenal, who knows. But there wasn't really much passion in the crowd either, apart from something I found incredibly naff, which was guys shouting out, "Ref!" or shouting out to a player. Why? They can't hear you, and they're not going to change their performance because of your amazing input in the stadium. I found it very cliched and a bit performative, I suppose. They were performing by shouting out to the people around them to show that they're very passionate and into their team. So, just now, the World Cup has been at a very weird playing times for European followers of football, right? So a lot of the matches were on at crazy times, like 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. or whatever. So there must have been some matches that you missed out on over this World Cup, right? I remember when I was a kid, when the World Cup was on, you would try and watch every single match. And if you're a proper football fan, then that's probably your style as well. But this World Cup, it wasn't possible to do that, was it? To watch the whole thing through. So you must have watched some matches just via quick highlights on YouTube. So that's a starting point. The fact that you didn't need to watch all of the World Cup games that were just on. So that's a little weaning off the drug of football that you can do, is maybe not watch all of the games of the season, get back some time, put it into a hobby. Because, like I say, all of those 100 hours you're watching every game of your team over a season, it only takes, many scientific studies show this, it only takes 30 days to form a new habit. So if you did 1 hour a day of whatever it is on your bucket list that you want to do, instead of watching so much football, I think there will be the benefit for you of increased happiness, trying new things, not sitting down, drinking alcohol, watching endless football. Because what was the score between your team and Liverpool in 1985? Twice. Or if your team wasn't in the same league as Liverpool at that time, choose another team. And what was the score in 1991? Or in 1998? So I said this to that Liverpool fan that I mentioned earlier, and he said, "Oh, I don't care about the old scores." Well, if you don't care about the old scores, then why is 2025, 2026 score important? Or indeed 2027, 2028? Why are they important if it's just a game that's happening repeatedly? If you think about it and get yourself a little bit off of the drug of football and put your energy and time and passion into something different, your mind will start working differently. If it's a physical thing as well, like carpentry, planing wood, physical and mental, give it a try, because I really, really think that you will find the benefits of it and have increased happiness. And if you hate this idea and you hate me for saying it, because football, as Bill Shankly said, is more important than life and death, I can't remember the exact quote now, then let me know in the comments. Give me the hate. And I'll see you next time. So I speak about quirky questions, UK nostalgia and heartwarming stories in all of my videos. So maybe hit subscribe and I'll see you next time. Toodaloo.